Welcome, everybody. We're just going to take a few minutes to let everybody come in. Welcome. So nice to see so many people.
Hi.
Hi, Rachel.
Wait, Laura is calling me.
Okay, we'll wait a minute. For those of you
Okay.
that are shuffling in, welcome to Is It Helpful or Hurtful? Showing up for others through infertility and pregnancy loss. We're just going to wait a minute for everyone to come in and for all of our participants to join on the live. So thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Laura. How are you? Welcome. Rachel was just on. I think she'll probably log back on, and we'll get started in a minute. Okay. Hi, everybody. Laura, everyone's saying they're having trouble hearing you. Can you try speaking one more time?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Does everyone hear me?
I'm waiting to see. Rachel's joining now. Give everyone 1 minute. Hi, Rachel. How are you? Welcome.
Hi. Okay, Laura, you panicked me just now.
I couldn't get on, but now no one hears me. So what should I do?
I hear you.
They can hear you now. Laura, they can hear you now. So you're good? Okay. Okay, so let me
Okay.
just get Rachel. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay, you can get started, Rachel.
Okay, so thank you everybody for 156 people so far for being here already and very timely. I think without a doubt this has been our most anticipated and most requested live that we've ever had. This is something that comes up every single day and affects probably everybody. And a lot of things we'll learn tonight will hopefully be applicable in many areas of your life. Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if everybody was following, anyone follows the SBH Fertility Instagram account, but we had a few questions leading up to tonight about the best thing someone's told you and the worst thing someone's told you. But one thing that really touched me was somebody wrote that the best thing someone told them to do during their struggles was to reach out to SBH Fertility. And I felt like, wow, that was such a key moment. And I do know how hard that could be for people to reach out for help. I was talking to someone today, I said, we're not used to it. We're women, we're Jewish women, we're Syrian women. We are used to giving, and understanding when we need help is such a difficult thing to do. And even when you know you need help, picking up the phone could be the most difficult part. So I understand the struggle, but I urge you to reach out to us and take a chance on us. And we hope that we could help you in any way that you need to really hold your hand through whatever journey you're going through. We actually have over 200 couples that we're currently helping. So mind-blowing number currently, right now. Not in our history, right now. I was laughing, thinking, Simone, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, I was like, Simone, is anybody going to call? Like, is anybody going to call us? And you're like, I think I would have called. And I was like, I guess I would have called. So to over 200 people right now is pretty awesome. Just a few things I wanted to mention. We are starting a whole new slew of support groups this summer. And sign up is going to, it already started, but we're going to have, a big blowout blast this week. So please sign up this week to ensure you have a spot for this summer's support groups in every single area. We're going to have them. I'll try and put up the link a few times throughout the night. A proud moment. We're constantly innovating, and we just actually started our first ever birth trauma workshop, which is wrapping up this week. Our registration filled within almost completely in pre-registration. We had a wait list, and we're hoping to run it again either this summer or this fall. So we really like to be on the cutting edge, and very excited about everything that we're working on. Another huge thing we're working on, Laura in particular, is our summer event, which is going to be July 12th in the evening. This is for couples. We really want to make sure the men are more involved. We know Lawrence Avenue has been amazing, but we're hoping the men will come out this July 12th evening. It's going to be at the home of Nathan and Elaine Shalom, our division sponsors. So super excited about that. And yeah, I'm just really excited about tonight. Just a little bit about Simone, who's one of my best friends, but also one of my mentors and heroes. Simone earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from Barnard, and then she got her PsyD in school clinical child psychology at Pace University, where she now teaches graduate courses. She currently works as a school psychologist at Barkai Yeshiva. And she also runs her own private practice where she provides psychotherapy to children and teens and runs parenting groups. Simone has been involved since day one, Laura as well. Simone helped implement our curriculum for our peer-to-peer program, and she's also trained through our Kenafayim, our pregnancy loss program. And just think it's going to be a fantastic night. I hope everyone gains. I can't wait to watch. Laura, I don't know, do I have to say day one, day zero? Rachel, we have to do this. And Eileen, I have to say that I'm very excited to have you on, because I think you were probably our first success case in a way, because it was literally within an hour of us launching that we felt like, wow, we really made a difference. And I'm excited for everyone to hear about that. And have fun.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. The SBH Fertility is really it's been an honor and working with them. We have a very special evening planned for tonight. Oh, it just got very close on me. Give me 1 minute. We have a very special evening planned for tonight. I think what's so special about tonight is we're going to hear from people from 2 different generations, right? From Mrs. Cabasso and also from her daughter-in-law, Laura. And we're going to hear about, you know, how life and how the whole fertility journey has really changed a lot in the last 50 or so years. We have so much more information. We have newer technologies. We have newer interventions that we can put into place. And I think the whole mindset around fertility struggles and people who are going through infertility has also shifted a lot. And sometimes that gap between the generations and the understandings and the perspectives that people are coming from can be quite a bit large. And we're hoping tonight to kind of bridge that gap and help everyone see each other's point of view and hear things from the other person's perspective. So before we get started and we hear from our 2 guests, which I'm very excited about, I just wanted to say, if you have any questions, if you can please put them in the question box. We're not going to be reading the comments as the live goes along. And I also just before we dive in, I just wanted to start with 2 quick points to kind of provide a framework for everyone as we listen to Laura's story and hear from her mother-in-law. When it comes to speaking with people and trying to support people with fertility who are going through infertility, I think aiming for perfection is unrealistic, right? We're never going to always say the perfect thing at the perfect time. Sometimes we might say something that comes off as insensitive. And that's okay, right? We're human, and that's part of what we do. We're not always perfect. I think what we're hoping to do tonight is to help provide some type of sensitivity about what that experience is like for people who are going through infertility. And the more that we're able to think about the other person's experience and try to understand what we're going through, we will automatically come off as more genuine, as more interested, as more caring. And although we might not always say the perfect thing, we'll try to give some guidelines in terms of, you know, what's helpful and what's not. I think that genuineness and that caring really does shine through. So as long as you're trying to hold the other person's experience and trying to understand what they're going through, they feel that, even if you don't have the perfect words to say in the moment. The second thing that I wanted to get through is it's really important to know that every single person is different, right? And when we try to think about how can we provide support, what should we do? What shouldn't we do? What should we say? What shouldn't we say? It's really important to take the individual into perspective, right? I can't really give a script of what to say when someone shares about their fertility struggles because I think what each person wants to hear can really vary greatly. And I'm sure there are people here on the live that are going through some challenging experiences, and some of the recommendations that we might give are going to be like, yeah, I would love that. I wish someone did that for me. And some of them you might be like, ooh, no, I don't want to hear that. So I think it's really important to keep the person, the person in mind, what they're going through, what their experience is like. And then also, like, what is your relationship with that person? How close am I to them? What can I be offering? What can I be offering? I think sometimes when we know someone is in need or when we see that someone is struggling, we're also kind-hearted. We want to dive in. We want to do so much. But really understanding those boundaries and understanding our relationship with the person is really critical. So on that note, Laura, thank you for joining us today. Laura's been involved in SPH Fertility, as Rachel said from the beginning. And I was hoping you can just start off by sharing briefly a little bit about your story and what you went through.
Okay, so everyone bear with me. I've never done this before. Okay, so I was married for about 2 years when me and my husband decided, let's start trying to get pregnant. So like most people, I mean, I was not most people. My periods were regular. Everything was normal. I said, okay, like most people, we're gonna try. We're gonna get pregnant in 2 minutes. And here, okay, it took a month, 2 months. A month went by, 2 months, 3 months. I'm at 6 months. I'm like, oh, let me go to a fertility doctor. Happened to be that month I got pregnant. Had my daughter. So I'm not gonna say it took a long time, but for me, every month was just like harder and harder. Hearing more people get pregnant, saying they're pregnant. After I had my daughter, she was about 18 months. I said, you know what? I'm going to start now because last time it took me 7, 8 months. I'm going to start now. So I said, all right, probably take me 7 months again anyways. So again, 1 month passed, 2 months. I'm at 6 months. Once again, I make an appointment at the fertility specialist thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to get pregnant again this month and I'll cancel again. That didn't happen. I get to the specialist and he's like, okay, it's a little early, but let's just start a workup. So we went through every blood test. We did sonograms. We did any test you can think of because I'm very, very thorough. I want to check every single thing. I want to rule out everything. And everything came back normal. So we said, you know, it's still a little early. Try a few more months. When we hit the 1 year mark, we'll talk. So now I hit the 1 year mark and I went in for more testing, more blood work. Still, everything's normal. But I'm not understanding. I have a kid at home. What's happening? So the doctor explains, he said, at this point, we're going to diagnose you with secondary unexplained infertility. It means you already have a kid at home, but you're not getting pregnant and it's unexplained. There is a reason. We just can't figure out what the reason is. Yeah. So we tried for a few more months on medications. And then he said, it's time to start IUI, intrauterine insemination. I started freaking out. I'm like, what is this? Why am I pregnant? I thought everyone gets pregnant. What's wrong with me? I was really, really traumatized. And little did I know that was not even the biggest deal of what I would be going through. So we did, I think, maybe 6 IUIs.
Laura, can you just explain for those who might not know, what exactly is an IUI?
So do you want to explain it like maybe more? So they take the sperm and they insert it like basically to the opening of the uterus. So it gives you like a not much higher % chance of getting pregnant, but I think it's like a 30% chance.
So it increases the chances that you'll
get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So we did like 6 of those. I was like, oh, of course it's going to work. Like, why wouldn't it work? I was ovulating every month. We had 2 follicles, nice size follicles, nothing. At that point, it was, I think, about a little over a year. I was at this doctor. I'm like, I'm going to go get another opinion. Switched to another doctor. He's like, let's try an IUI by my office. We tried another one, didn't work. I wasn't so comfortable there. I went to a third doctor. We did another IUI. And at that point, she's like, we don't really do usually more than 3 or 4. You're on like number 7. I think it's time to go to IVF. And that's when like, I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. Like I got pregnant on my own with no problem. I don't understand why I need to do IVF. It took time to process it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I accepted my fate, and I said, you know what? I just want a baby right now. I'm doing it. I thought, okay, this is like for sure gonna work because they're literally creating the embryo and just putting it back into my uterus, and I had a baby. So what could go wrong? We did the first round of IVF, and again, unexplained fluke. I got no embryos. We didn't understand why. There was no reason for it. I grew a lot of eggs. They just weren't they weren't good quality. And that was like maybe the worst, like the lowest point of the entire journey. I was devastated. When they called me and said there's no embryos after I went through pretty much a surgery and shots for 2 weeks, and I was traumatized. I was beyond traumatized. I couldn't even imagine myself doing this again. Like, I'm gonna have to go through shots again, anesthesia again. It's too much. But of course, you want a baby. So did it a second time, and thank God I got pregnant with my son through a frozen embryo transfer. And after I had my son, I was like, I'm never going on birth control ever again. This was traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens, happens. And I didn't even think anything was going to happen because I'm like, I don't get pregnant. It doesn't work. Trying for 2.5 years. This whole process was about 2.5 years. I'm like, nothing's going to happen. And I think my baby was 6 months old. It was in the summer. I was living by my mother-in-law. And I spotted like for one day, and I said, oh, my period came. I wasn't even regular yet. I didn't even get my period back from giving birth. And I just felt weird. I'm like, oh, I got my period. I didn't feel good. And then the next day it just disappeared. So I was like, okay, this is strange. But like, I don't have implantation bleeding. That doesn't happen to me. That's like what happens to other people. This isn't going to happen to me. And I would not take a pregnancy test. I would not. I don't know if anyone else is like me, but anyone who goes through infertility, like I have like a fear of pregnancy test. I don't want to see the results of the test. I will not take one. So my mom was there. She was like, you acting psychos. Your hormones seem like they're crazy. Just go take it. So I went to one of my friend's houses who was the nurse, and now she works with SBH Fertility. She gave me all my injections, saved my life. She stored my medication in her refrigerator. She labeled them. I went to her house every single night. She really saved my life. And I took a pregnancy test in her bathroom, and I literally like fainted on the floor. I'm like, I have a 6-month-old. How's this happening? And then I had my third.
Wow. So three children. It's beautiful. So Laura, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I know you were nervous about coming on tonight and sharing all that. I think it is helpful for people to hear what you're going through. And you hit on so many points that I think are common themes that come up. I mean, first of all, 2.5 years. That's a really long time. And another word that came up a lot as you were speaking is the word unexplained. Like there was so much uncertainty in the process and not having those answers.
For someone like me, like I'm very anxious. I'm always stressed. Everything needs to be planned, organized. So like to not have a reason, it's like I couldn't function. Like, what do you mean there's no reason? Like you're a doctor, find the reason. But this happened.
Right. Yeah. And you know what's interesting about your story, and I think will resonate with a lot of people listening, all 250 of them, is the piece of it that was the secondary fertility. You know, I feel like we live in a community where, for better or for worse, there is sort of this like set timeline in terms of when you get married, how long you wait to have a child. You know, people are starting to make some different choices and do things differently. How long you wait between your first and your second. And for you, how hard, you know, how strange that must have been that you were able to get pregnant with your first, and then this timeline or this idea, this dream that you had in your head wasn't really working out in the way that you expected.
And once my daughter started turning 2, it's like the comments kept coming and coming. Oh, you don't want to have them too far apart. What's taking you so long? Come on, let's get on it.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you deep down were really struggling and really trying, and it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
That's where the older generation comes in.
Hi.
You have the boy
Welcome,
when
Mrs.
you're going to have the
Carasso.
girl.
Yeah.
And I'm interjecting over here.
That's okay. That's great. We love to hear from you.
Okay, so the reason why you have my generation on right now is because Laura and I live together every summer. Okay, and now, of course, she has Eileen, and she wants to try for, as she said, for a second child. So 1 month goes, and Laura, like she said, she wants things done yesterday. She was pregnant, and the whole time I kept saying, Laura, it's going to happen. I said, relax. I said, the truth is, I feel in hindsight, I feel badly because I think she felt I was dismissing her feelings. I really wasn't dismissing her feelings because the older generation, don't worry, it's going to happen. Just relax. The great grandmas, the grandmas. This is what, and there was no talking of IVF, IOC, QST, UPW. We don't know from these things. That's why I also, when Laura worked on the SBH initiative a few years ago at the Lawrence Avenue Show, she says, Ma, come. I said, you know what, I'm going to come. You know what? I got there, 400 women were there, 9 panelists. Each panelist had a story. If I tell you at the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. So what did I do? I went over to every single panelist to ask them questions and to say, I had no idea. You had one panelist, Laura, 3 children she had. And she says, and I want to have my 4th. And they're telling me, and she had a hard time. And they're saying, well, you have 3 kids at home. Why do you want a 4th? She goes, not only that, I want 4, 5, and 6. We as older generation also have to know what to say and what not to say. And after, when Laura said, now we're going to a specialist, I'm like, oh, so she really has a problem. I didn't believe the whole time that she had a problem because she had Eileen at home. And Laura, she's high strung and she wants everything. I says, Laura, it's not going to happen when you want it to happen. It's going to happen. But obviously it didn't happen and she needed help. So that's where I came in afterwards. She said she interviewed this, she was going to this very big doctor. And I said, you know what? I want to go with you. I want to go to some of those appointments. And why did it work? Because Laura kept the lines of communication open for the 2 of us. She didn't shut me out as the mother-in-law that, she doesn't know what she kept me in the loop. And because she kept me in the loop, I wanted to be with her. So, of course, her mother's always around. I'm around. We went to the doctors. We sat down. I listened. I didn't always understand everything, just to say, all these things. But it's a learning process. And for my generation also, they should go to these initiatives also. Right, Laura? Don't you think?
Yep.
That's why we're having, Mrs. Cabesso, that's why we're having this live, so that people can hear. You mentioned, we spoke yesterday a little bit and did a little bit of a preview. You mentioned yesterday how transformative going to that SBH event and hearing people's stories really was. Can you describe that a little bit more and share how that changed your whole outlook on what Laura was going through?
First of all, I was shaking. And I think I went over to Rachel Bennett. What's your last name? I don't know it now, but Rachel, I went over
Rachel
to her.
Hazen, yeah.
I went over to her and I had to, because obviously everybody out there knows I'm a very verbal person. I had to get it off my chest. I said I had no idea what these girls, because everything, this whole initiative, that whole thing, it encompassed a lot of things that were going on. Girls that, lost, had miscarriages, and then the husbands were having issues, and then and the amount of years that went by. Oh, we're married 4 years, and now it's 5, now it's 6 years, and now we're going through this, and now it's 8 years, and my eyes are going like this. I'm like, oh my goodness. But guess what? Most of the people on the panel were able to go through their problems. You had one panelist that became a doctor today in infertility. Am I correct? Yes.
Yeah, I was at the event. I don't remember all the panelists between the
Okay,
first and the
Laura,
second,
right?
but it sounds familiar. Laura would know.
I don't know if I'm allowed to
My
say his name.
wife went through. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they went.
Okay.
7.
So I remember even where they were on the stage. So, but I had to go over to every single person. And the truth is, Laura has to teach me a lot also. First of all, she's a biology major. She knows her body. She kept saying, I know my body. I know this. Something is not right. And I kept going, you know, it's going to happen. But that's my generation. My generation, we didn't have, and you know something, everything now is, I'm so happy you do these SBH initiatives, because even I've been involved in the SCC, this Florida Community Center, for 33 years. Everything from the juniors, kindergarten, up until talking about, same thing. We did discussions on women with infertility. We had guest speakers, and some of the stories that came out of that, it's really very heartfelt, but bless you girls, really for getting the word out. And I just want to say to some of the mother-in-laws out there and some of the daughters and daughters, listen, you got to give your mother-in-law a chance sometimes. Maybe she may be a daughter, but you keep
So
the
we're gonna
lines of
get into that in a
communication.
minute. You're
Yes.
hitting on so many important points. Let's slow down
Oh
for
boy.
1 second.
Here
So
I go. Okay.
the first piece I think that you're talking about is how you felt like in some ways you were minimizing Laura's feelings at the time. You were telling her, oh, you have to
Yes.
relax, it's just stress. And Laura,
Right.
could you share a little bit more about some of the things, and obviously not your mother-in-law, but some of the things that
You
maybe some
can.
other people in your life did that didn't feel so great and made it harder for you?
So really, my family and friends were great, but there were always the comments that, like you said, people don't realize what they're saying when they're saying it. Like, I mean, my family said this all the time. You're just stressed. There's nothing wrong. You're just stressed. Just relax. That's what I got 24/7. But guess what? I got pregnant with my first. I was stressed and I was anxious. I got pregnant with my third. I was stressed and I was anxious. I'm always stressed and anxious. So like I knew that I wasn't extra stressed or anxious.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing
So
that.
yeah, and when we're thinking about like don'ts, right? And obviously we're gonna be pretty loose here, but I think like minimizing how the other person is feeling. When I read through some of the comments that all of you posted in terms of things that were hurtful, there were certain things that kept repeating, right? Like at least you know you could get pregnant to someone who just had a miscarriage, or at least you had two children at home.
Have one child at home.
Yeah, or at least you get to go on vacation with your husband whenever you want to. And again, none of us are trying to be malicious. None of us are trying to make the other person feel bad. In fact, it's the opposite. We think, let's point out perhaps some of the positives. But that can be really taken as really invalidating. And what we want to do is we want to really validate the other person's experience, right? That must be so hard for you. How can I help? Or what can I do? When we say, oh, just relax, don't worry about it, everything is going to be fine. I think for a lot of people that we speak to, that really takes away that validation and makes them feel unheard and really misunderstood. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, like it was more helpful when people would just text me like, I know you had an appointment today. If you need to talk, I'm here. Or I hope everything's going well. Like just checking in, not telling me a reason why, or why don't you try this doctor? Maybe your doctor's not working. You don't know what I'm doing at my doctor. You didn't never not. I know they weren't trying to be mean, but like you never went through this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're hitting on a really important point. I think a lot of times when you share with someone for the first time what you're going through, people have a lot of questions, right? And they want to know the answers, partly, I think, for their own curiosity and partly because they think they're being supportive. And then what's the diagnosis? How long have you been trying? What doctor are you going to? Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Again, all coming from a really good place. But when we're first responding to someone who's sharing something so close, so important, so private, our first reaction should not be a barrage of questions. I think that can make the person that we're speaking to really uncomfortable. And instead, like Laura said, like, thanks so much for sharing that with me. I know that must have been hard, right? I can imagine that's a really difficult experience. How can I help? The difference between the overall tone, I mean, even as I'm speaking, I can feel it. What are you going to say, Laura?
I'm just saying, like, I understand, like, it sucks. It sucks. There's nothing to even say, like, to make it better. Just, I guess, empathizing.
Yeah. And Mrs. Cavasso, it sounds like you really, after you went to that event, you really turned a corner in terms of the language that you used and the way that the way that you think about this now. Can you tell us a little
Yes.
bit more about that?
Yes. So as I said before, everything is, well, knowledge is power. When we have this knowledge, sometimes we want to share. And I was so happy to be able to have this information. So if anybody else needed it besides Laura, and then I sort of knew what not to say and what to say.
Mm-hmm.
If, you know, you can't blame like my generation or the generation older, because we're doing, even I remember my grandma too. I mean, really, but you know, Baruch Hashem, I was very fortunate in having my children, and not even, I never even heard of, you know, I got pregnant. I didn't even know how I got pregnant. I had my babies, thank God, Baruch Hashem. So, and now, and my grandma had 10 kids, and my mother. So I don't know. Thank God, around me was, everything was okay. But you know what? I know there's struggles out there. Well, not, you know, I know there's struggles out there. But when Laura was going through this, if she didn't communicate with me, how she was feeling, and how, I don't know if, like now, like I said, I know better now. I know better now. If I want to ask a question, it'll have to be because I'm sort of invited to the question. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
totally.
but also I want to say another thing. I know we all talk about privacy and stuff like that, but the fact that the word gets out, girls, there's help for you. There's help. I understand there's organizations that help financially for girls that want to have babies. And then there's a whole, so the fact that you get this all out there is so very important. It really, really, really is, because back in the day, okay, my generation was a little bit better, but even before that, there was nothing like this. And how do you, and how do you go on when you're, and then there's, I know Laura, she was invited to a couple of luncheons or stuff like that, and I'm not going. I said, what do you mean you're not going? No, they're gonna, right?
So let's hear about that, Laura, because I think I think that's a theme that comes up a lot, right? Like going to events and how hard that might be. What was that like for you?
My biggest thing, like, was not that I wasn't happy for my friends when they announced to me. I was very happy. I just didn't want to go to their brisses or sebits or anything. I was on hormone shots. I was not feeling myself. I'm trying to have a baby, to get pregnant, and I'm going to someone else's event. I mean, I'm happy for them, but I just didn't need it in my, I don't know if that's insensitive, but I just didn't need it in my face.
So what do you wish like those friends would have understood back then? And it sounds like some of them did, but like, you know, when you didn't go to a bris or when you didn't want to go to an event.
So no, my friends really understood. No one said a word to me. I just texted my friend in the morning, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it. They really understood.
Yeah.
And even, this is a big thing to talk about, like pregnancy announcements, like in group chats. My friends caught on to it pretty early on and stopped doing it. You know, you don't know what anyone else is going through, if anyone's struggling. And text me on the side, text everyone on the side, tell them separately, because you don't want, if for anyone going through it, your stomach just drops when you think one of your friends are pregnant. Not that you're not happy, just like your stomach drops waiting for them to tell you, like, it's going to be awkward, I'm going to feel bad, it's going to be an uncomfortable situation for them and for me. You just don't want it to happen, you know?
Yeah.
But it's better having it on the side. My friend would just text me on the side, like, I know I'm just like, I know what you're going through, and I just want you to hear from me that I'm pregnant, and God willing, your time will come soon, like that. Not sending announcements into group chats.
Yeah. And I think the general consensus is that in these more delicate situations, sending a text message, a private text message to your friend, letting them know in that way, giving them time to respond. They don't need to put on a face for you. It's not right face to face. They can kind of process it on their own in their own way, because it can bring up a lot of mixed emotions, right? You shared you were happy for them. You also felt bad for yourself. Like, all of those things are so normal. And by doing it through a text before the big announcement goes out, they're giving you that time and that space to process it.
So I'd like to share something that happened to me today. So since everybody heard about this live, and I only just put it on my story like a day ago, just to tell you, a friend of mine shared something with me, and she said something very smart. So I just want to share with all the people that are. So a friend of mine said, you know, she has two kids at home, and she was older. and she said it's either now or never. And she was having a few issues. So what did she say? She says, I grabbed on to one person who I knew would understand. And you know what, Eileen? She helped me. And she helped me. I didn't know where to turn, who to turn. Our mother's older here. Sometimes, and then she said she held on to that one person. So who's ever listening out there, if it's your mother, your mother-in-law, your older sister and aunt, somebody from SBH, they will help you. You hold on to that person, and then your comfort level, you'll feel you'll feel that bubble around you. You'll feel the love around you. And I wish that for everybody. I wish everybody to be able to have what they want and also have that support and that love that they need.
Yeah,
so
that's the best plug for
yeah,
SBH and their peer-to-peer
yes,
program. I mean, some people are fortunate; they do feel comfortable, or they want to speak to their mother, their mother-in-law, their sister, their friend.
right.
Some people really prefer to speak to somebody on the outside that isn't related to them, that might not be so directly involved.
Anybody.
And SBH does have the peer-to-peer program where you can be connected with somebody who went through a similar experience, to have that one person in your life. Laura, you shared that you randomly found this person. You want to talk a little bit about what that support was like for you?
Okay. So besides for the nurse that helped me, that saved me, this girl also. So I happened to be in my doctor's office, and there was another girl there. I knew her. She was another Syrian girl, and she was actually my counselor, like in 7th grade. So like I said hi. I went inside the room. She was in the other room, and then she left. And the doctor came up to me and she said, would you mind if I gave her your number? You guys are going through something similar, and she wants someone to talk to, because she was very private. She wasn't talking to so many people about it. I said, for sure. And we were literally going through the exact same thing, secondary unexplained infertility. She was 2 weeks ahead of me in her cycle, in her IVF cycle. Like every time she did something, I was doing it 2 weeks later. And she literally just became, I don't care if she was 5 years older than me, didn't even make a difference. She became my rock, basically. That's why like the peer-to-peer is so important. I didn't want to talk to anyone else. I just only wanted to speak to her. Called her, texted her, each other every day. She would pick me up, we would go for ice cream. I would only go to her house because she literally understood exactly what I was going through, because she was going through the exact same thing. Yeah. So it was really, that was the most helpful part of my entire journey, was having this friend.
Right, having someone who understood you, who supported you, and I think it's the peer-to-peer program is wonderful. Finding someone to speak to is wonderful, but in some ways, all of us, even if we didn't have the same exact experience as someone that tells us what they're going through, we can also provide that type of support, right? Maybe not in the same exact way, but I think by really listening, what is this other person going through? What are they sharing? What are they trying to tell me? And how can I be supportive? How can I show up, as is the title of this talk? We can all do that in small ways for people in our lives, even if we're not that necessarily go-to person who hears everything. And as you talk about it, Laura, I see your face light up. Like, it's so clear how powerful that relationship and how helpful that really was for you.
Even my mother-in-law, I mean, like, I had my mother, my grandma. When my mother came with me to almost every appointment. My grandma came with me to every single appointment. And even my mother-in-law, even if she was the busiest person that day, she would, and if no one could come with me that day, and she couldn't even come with me, she made sure someone came with me. She called her sister to come with me, came with me to a doctor. She made sure that I always had support with me.
Yeah.
My sister came with me, like everyone was very, very supportive. My friends offered, they would come drop me snacks and gifts to my house on a hard day, just pick me, show up at my house before Shabbat, just to get my mind off things,
Yeah. So I'm thinking, as you're talking again about all those responses from all of you, in terms of what helped or what was supportive. And what really stuck out to me as I was reading through all of the responses is very few people shared like quotes or words that people said. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about some helpful things that you can say. Most of what people shared was really dropping off my favorite ice cream, taking me to my appointment, sending me for a massage. And it really felt like, in this case, like doing for someone or showing up for someone, dropping something off. Those were the things that really made a difference. And Laura, it sounds like for you and Mrs. Cavasso that you took Laura to all of her appointments and were really there for
A
her.
lot,
Like
not
that
all,
was a
a
big
lot
piece
of
of
them.
it.
No,
Yeah.
divide between her, my mother, my grandma.
Right. Yes.
There was always someone with me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But I also want to say that I want to get back to the SBH, the fertility initiative and all that infertility initiative. I think you gals are doing a great job. I'm so happy now because this generation, the next generation, there's a place for people to go for help. But when I saw those 9 panelists that time, everybody had a different problem. And you guys are there to help everybody with this problem. And I commend you all. I think it's wonderful. And if you need my help,
Everyone knows where to reach out to now.
Okay.
I think what's interesting, like, yeah, what you're saying is there are so many different types of problems that can arise. I think the way the psychology field is starting to understand, problems with infertility and even early pregnancy loss is really a loss, right? There's really this grieving process, whether you did lose a baby early on in a miscarriage, or you lost the timeline that you had expected in your head, right? Or you lost your idea of what your perfect life would go through. Women who are going through infertility are really grieving. And then on top of that, so many are taking different hormones and different medications that are messing with their moods and making them act in certain, differently. They feel different than they normally do. It really is a challenging experience. And I think we live in such a beautiful community, and we're so fortunate that we have so many people that are caring for us and wanting to support us, and just, hearing a little bit more and knowing what to do and how to be more sensitive can make all the difference.
Could I say one more thing?
I just have to add out to my husband also. She's right. The husband,
I was going to say, yes, the husbands.
my husband was by my side the entire time.
So proud of him.
Helped with my craziness. Even my dad, I was living with them at the time, and my brother, and everyone I was just not myself for like 2 whole years, and everyone really stood by my side. My aunt I work with every day. I was probably a psycho, Well,
I'm not saying that. But also kudos to the husbands. Really, God bless. I mean, it's not easy for them either. They don't understand. Listen, they don't always understand women in general. So the fact, and I saw with Isaac, I saw, how because we lived together in the summer, so I saw how Isaac and Laura and how it was a collective. Obviously, it has to be a collective effort, otherwise, whatever. But yes, the husbands have a difficult time also, and we have to also. Do you talk to them too?
So there are different supports through SBH Fertility for husbands as well. And I do know that this year, as Rachel said, the main event will be, focusing on what the men go through too, because I do think that's an important piece.
Yes.
Laura, I'm going to backtrack a minute. I just want to ask you a few more questions in terms of like when we're thinking how to be supportive, what can we do? We saw one major theme that really came through is doing things, right? Like acts of service, showing up, showing that we care. In your opinion, and for everyone it's different, so let's hear from you. When you first shared, what the challenges or the struggles that you were going through, what would have been the ideal response from someone? Like, what would you have wanted the person to say or do?
The IVF baby.
That's a hard question.
It's a little tricky, yeah.
I would like to see them responding like they really care.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, I can't believe what you're going through. It seems like it's very hard. I wouldn't want them giving me advice because, unless they really went through something similar and they really had advice that can help me. Like, went through the same thing, went to doctors, the same type of doctor, same treatment. Like, I would like the advice I would get about IVF and the shots and things like that. That was helpful. But when someone didn't go through it, and I would just tell one of my best friends that, listen, that she had completely other issues. Like people have miscarriages, people have other things. Yeah. I could have that. It's just that we were just able to understand we're each going through something different but similar time, and just say like, I understand what you're going through is hard, and like at the same time I was actually going through treatment. My friend had I would say like 11-week miss, and I was going through my things, but like I went to her house when she wasn't home. I left the care package on her bed.
Yeah.
The care packages from SBH are unbelievable. It really, really helps so much just to see that someone's there for you that cares. And just getting a text and saying, just checking on me, like, how you doing?
Yeah.
Hope everything. Not
Yeah.
asking questions. If I wanted to tell you, I'll tell you myself.
Yeah. It sounds like to me like that initial response is, I mean, for all of us out there, I think when someone's sharing, as I said before, something so personal, something so vulnerable, to just say like, wow, thanks so much for telling me. Like, I appreciate you sharing this with me. I can imagine what you're going through is really difficult. And then I think sometimes we feel a little awkward, like, ooh, they just shared something big with me. I don't know what to do with that information. I think if someone's choosing to share with you what they're going through, they do want support. They do want follow up, right? So in 2 days from then, checking, being like, oh, I've been thinking a lot about you, just checking in. Let me bring dinner for you tonight. Let me watch your kids while you go to your appointments, like offering some advice. But even if we're feeling uncomfortable or feeling awkward or we don't really know what to do, it is important to follow up, because if someone shared that with you, they're doing it for a reason, and they want some type of support or something from you. So doing so in a sensitive way could be really helpful.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yes. Mrs. Cabasso, I have a bit of a interesting question for you. Just hearing all this tonight, and I think what you heard at SBH, if you could go back in time, right? So like when you were living with Laura in the summer, you were seeing what was going on. What would you do differently? It's clear you would do things differently. What exactly is it that you would do differently?
Well, when Laura initially told me, she was having a hard time, I think what I would do is, well, what do you mean you're having a hard time? Instead of just saying, oh, listen, I'm totally not an insensitive person. I'm very intuitive. I knew she was pregnant with that Jerry like this. I know her personality. I know Laura. So I just felt, because of her personality, she's so like, she wants things done yesterday. I mean, by 8 o'clock in the morning, she already cooked dinner, got the kids dressed, she did 700,000 things. So she liked everything. Like I said, you know what, Laura, you got to relax. You got to. So what I would do different is I would have to put all that generational thinking to rest and say, oh, really? Well, what's the next step? And do like that. Because I did eventually when time started going on and things were not happening. And like I said, she kept the lines of communication open. She let me in. And then I knew exactly what my role was after that. So, you can't blame us older people, because this is what we, and back in the day, nobody really talked so much.
Right.
And I didn't know so much because I had my kids like that. And I didn't know too much. I didn't know IVF, IUC, all these things I tell Laura.
And I something.
Yeah.
Hey, just for people watching, when people say just relax, it's just stress. It's the
Right.
it's a medical diagnosis, just like you get a medical diagnosis at a doctor for something else. Yeah, stress obviously plays a role in everything, but like she explained to me, it's not gonna. It's an actual medical diagnosis. It's not from stress.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And it has nothing to. So we say, oh, relax, put your feet up, do this, all these things. This is what your mother told you, or your grandma told you, or they told your cousin, or something. So this is what. So now we have SBH, and SBH will teach us what we need to know.
You keep saying something really important. You keep talking, Mrs. Cabasso, you keep talking about keeping the lines of communication open.
Yes.
And I think what's so special about your relationship with Laura, as I've spoken with you, both of you over the last few days, is really seeing like Laura really did trust you. She really did open up to you and share something that not everyone feels so comfortable sharing with the people around them. And I think that's really a tribute to you and your relationship. But I think what you're trying to share with everyone out there is, even if someone doesn't necessarily understand, or is from a different generation, or is giving you advice that doesn't seem so appropriate in the moment, to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, I'm your mother-in-law, I want to help you, I might not totally get it, but
Right.
try to
She
tell
knew
me
that.
things, try to trust me, and from these kinds of programs, we're going to try to do our part to be more educated and to learn more, right? So it kind of takes seeing both different perspectives.
She would
Yes.
tell me like, I'm an idiot. Talk to me like I don't know anything. Explain it to me. And she tried to understand.
She
Yeah.
tried. She even told me about the ovaries. Don't you know your body? Don't you know your ovulate? I don't know what. No, I'm just saying. So she sat me down as much as she broke her heart. Okay, say it one more time, Laura. But no, I mean, but I'm not joking. But I'm just. It happened that way, right,
Yeah.
Laura? She would say, "Ma, I don't understand. How'd you have kids? You don't know." I said, "But you know what, Laura? Thank God. Like I said, Simone and everybody out there. Thank God she trusted me." And she stuck with me, and it worked out. Thank God, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that a lot. We're seeing that a lot with people who are starting to feel more comfortable to share, whether it be with their mother-in-law or their friends. Like, I think group chats become much more sensitive places
Yes.
when people have an understanding of what's going on and what you're going through. I think a lot of times group chats can be um, difficult, hurtful, like as Laura shared, in terms of without people even realizing it. And I think sometimes if people are cued in, like, oh, she's going through a hard time, it can end up being a really important place of support. I was talking to a woman a few weeks ago who told me about a group chat where she was in, where she had gone through something, she shared it, and then within the next 4 months, 4 different people in her chat also had things and started sharing what they were going through, and how they really bonded and they really connected by being able to talk about it. So, for people who do feel comfortable sharing, I think it just helps the people around them become more sensitive. And then there are other people who really feel like, this is me, this is my private journey, and I want to keep it to myself. And we understand that too, right? As we started the live, everybody's different. What they're looking for is different. What they want to hear is different. What they feel comfortable sharing is different. And I'm happy that we're able to contribute to raising awareness and sharing some thoughts on this in some way. Yeah. So Laura, before we close, any last thoughts or any sum up that you want to say in terms of what was so helpful for you, like what was supportive for you, and what can people take away from this?
I think the most supportive thing was having that peer-to-peer. So I'm not like, I am trying to promote the peer-to-peer program, but because it really is so important just to have someone that understands, that went through something almost like something so similar to you. Just they understand you, they get you. So that to me was the most supportive. Also, like I said, having supportive friends and family. My family did anything for me, anything.
Yeah.
I had my friend giving me shots every night. I showed up to her house at once. I couldn't I had to do a shot at 2:00 in the morning once. Me and my husband. You have to see two of us trying to draw up the injection into a syringe. I don't know what I was doing, and I couldn't do it. And if it wasn't given at that time, my surgery the next day was going to be canceled, and everything I did was for nothing. I literally drove to her house at 2:00 in the morning, banging on her door. She didn't end up answering the door. The doorbell doesn't ring upstairs, but the doctor ended up answering the phone and helped me do it. But like, they were just so supportive. Like, literally, she would have came down at 2:00 in the morning and gave me a shot on her doorstep in the middle of the night in Brooklyn, like on the street.
Yeah, and I think it really is a tribute to our community, right? And our sense of family and our bonding.
Would call me to the doctor. My grandma would sit with me on the train every single morning for my 10-minute checkup to see the follicle. She would just sit with me on the train for an hour and a half each way.
Yeah.
Everyone was very supportive.
So dedicated. Yeah. So we're going to take questions in 1 minute. Laura, I want to thank you for coming forward, sharing what you went through, and helping to raise awareness and give people some tips in terms of how to think about what other people's experiences. I think now everyone could really understand better, like what's going through people's minds if they're not showing up to events, if they're not really answering in the group chat as much, to kind of realize that there might be something else going on. And I think that's important. And Mrs. Cabasso, really thank you so much for being our entertainment, but also showing us that you can always learn, right? No, there's always more to learn, and there's always more to know. And
God bless
I
you.
really respect how open you are in terms of some of the things that you wish you said or did differently. I think that's so cool that you're so open to it and open to learning. in psychology, and there's a lot of research in terms of which type of therapy is the best for whatever the presenting problem is. And time again, the research really shows that the most therapeutic aspect of any type of therapy is the person's relationship with their therapist. And what that always stood out to me and showed me was our relationships really are so powerful and have such the power to heal. And I think we live in a wonderful place where we're surrounded by friends and family and people who love us. And I hope tonight was helpful in terms of giving us some ideas, some tips, some thoughts in terms of how can we use our relationship to be helpful, to help people heal, to be supportive.
One more
Yeah, Laura.
support group also. After I was pregnant, I still joined it because I had a little PTSD from IVF, and the therapists are amazing. It just helps to just be in a room around the table with people that went through things like you, like similar things as you.
Yeah. So again, if you're going through something or if you know someone that's having some trouble in this area, please feel free to reach out to SBH. I'm going to open up the question box, so if anybody has any questions, you can submit them now. And oh, thank you. SBH Fertility asks, what if the person that is not sharing anything? Okay, so Laura, you want to take this and then I can take over. What happens if you kind of know that someone's going through something, but they're not sharing? They're not telling you about it. What's your role there?
You mean to their mother-in-law?
Yeah, let's say let's say you know someone's having a hard time, but they're not telling you. Like for people who you didn't share anything with, but they probably had a sense that you were going through a hard time. What's their role?
Just honestly, just acting like not pitying me, first of all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Like it just gets awkward. Like you don't want that.
And we don't like that word, Hazita.
Yeah.
We don't like that.
Right. That's like being patronizing.
Right.
Also, like being there, like, and understanding that I'm a very open person, but like when I went through this, for some reason, I just wasn't as open as I am about everything else. So a lot of my very close friends, I didn't really speak to about it, but they were supportive anyways. They just would text me like, "Hi, what's going on?" They didn't push me. They didn't try to get it out of me. If I wanted to talk, I would talk.
Mm-hmm. And I think that relates to the way that we open, right? Like knowing where what's your role, right? So if you are very close to someone, people make choices about who they share things with and who they don't share things with based on their own personal experiences or thoughts. And that just might not be your role at that time, right? So I think it's okay if you have a hunch that something's going on. You can definitely open the door. You could send a text message, hope all's okay, notice you've been a little distant lately. And if they choose not to share, you can kind of leave it at that, right? Yeah. And that's just them letting you know what, this is my boundary. I need some space right now. And it's not something to take personally. It's not something to get offended about. It's just the person that you're talking to is going through a hard time, and they're supporting and dealing with it in the best way that they can. Yeah.
People that are relating more to them in that way, in their situation.
I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, Laura.
Yeah. Not usually something against your relationship with that person. It's just that the person going through something is relating more to others that are going through something similar. Like I could have 3 best friends and I'm only talking to one of them about it because she's relating more to the situation.
Yeah, and the whole experience, it's about the person that's going through the challenge, right? It's not about you. And I think sometimes it's hard for us to remember that. Like, we want to be so close to them. We want to be the person that helps them. We want them to feel comfortable telling us everything. But really, it's their struggle, and they're coping with it in a way that works for them. And I think sometimes we do need to remember that perhaps the best thing to do after reaching out once or twice and trying to open the door is to kind of just leave it and respect that that's what the person wants. So thank you. That was a great question. I'm trying to see. It's kind of hard to read these while we're on the screen. I think some of these are accidents. I'm not. Okay. I think that's it. That was a great question. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We hope that you walked away with some understanding, some tips, some ideas about how to show up, how to support your friends or family members that are going through infertility or pregnancy loss. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.